what a gift to the community. What a true service, like
Mhm.
across the board, to set someone up with that kind of communication. I think
Yeah.
it's I think it's beautiful. I was like really touched by some of this research that I was doing.
Welcome back to Muse on the Mic. I'm Riley.
And I'm Emily. Thanks again, everyone, for joining us on another great episode here at MUSE on the Mic. We're diving in to one of our new series again, and we've got some awesome and great information coming for you. So, Riley, let everybody know, what are we talking about today?
We are getting into part two of our disability series. If you didn't see part one, go to Patreon to check it out. But this time we're going to focus a bit more specific to a mental disability, specifically autism. And I did read that somewhere around 9% of autistic people are married, which I find shocking, shockingly low. But
Mm.
if there's very few of them in long-term committed relationships, I wonder, where are they getting that vital sexual contact from? Either they aren't at all, or is it a sex worker? I don't know.
Well, hopefully this episode will lead to some solutions because I feel like that's what we're really coming with.
Mhm.
Because look, we're not here to diagnose every, element in every step of the spectrum. There are so many different types of autism, ranges, intensities, and how it affects their daily life, how people navigate around it and work. Some are completely high functioning and you would never know. Many
Right,
are undiagnosed, so maybe they're not even
right.
included in those kind of surveys and stuff, right? Some people are misdiagnosed and told they have ADHD or some other issue, dyslexia and stuff, which may be too, but
Right.
not it. You know what I mean? So I feel like so many of those things, much like our world, is full of so much stigma that
Hmm.
it leads to so much isolation, and that can almost snowball or like amplify some of the hesitancies or the issues. Because if you're already feeling stigmatized and rejected,
Hmm.
maybe from that you can develop a social anxiety. Maybe from that you can develop a shyness. Like there are so many other little elements that might lead to further isolation. And I think the biggest problem with any disability across any spectrum is the assumption that those people are asexual. I think
Right.
it's very important to realize they are completely sexual beings,
Hmm.
completely functional sexual beings, right? In different ways, at different levels, and in different intensities, but so are quote unquote the normal world, right?
Hmm.
You're very low sex drive, regular folks, and you're very high sex drive, regular folks. And so, why wouldn't any other person on any other, category be exactly the same? It would range all over the place, no
Right.
differently. And we're big believers in sex work, obviously. So, why not use us as a
Hmm.
solution? Because across the globe, sex work is everywhere. And
Hmm.
it's one of those ironic resources because, listen, there's parts of the world you can't find clean water, but you can find a hooker. Like, it really depends.
So true.
But it's there. And there are some, obviously, countries where it's legal to participate. It's not legal. There are some that are very accepting, some where it's in dark, shadowy corners. And again, every spectrum of that too. The
Hmm.
spectrum's everywhere in this episode. But the options are available. And we've done a bit of research and our own personal experiences and from, owning Muse, the massage parlor for 15 years now.
Hmm.
We've seen a lot and our staff have seen a lot and
Hmm.
they've encountered numerous kinds. Like that 9% makes so little sense because I'm thinking in my
No.
head, swear at least 50% of the people come in are on some sort of spectrum of something. Listen,
Right.
you and I both have mental health days too. Like
Right.
everybody does. So in what world would that be so small? Or in what world
Hmm.
would those people not have intimate needs, right?
Right.
So I got some articles. I found some
Yeah.
resources, and a lot of this episode is going to be a huge kudos to Australia and the UK because they seem to be the most actively participating in this
Right.
discourse and the conversations, and leading those conversations not just to a blog post but to actual political action, creating things like different agencies and different programs and support systems, like we have
Hmm.
Maggie's and stuff like that in Toronto. um, that really come together to pool together the needs of the community, the abilities of the sex work world, and either joining them together through therapists and doctors and that like the medical approach, or through politics, legalities, and social programs set up by governments. So shout out to those countries doing that because I found this super fascinating. So if you'll allow me.
Educate us.
AustraliaLives.com has a program called SAIL, SAAIL, called Supporting Autistic Adults' Intimate Lives.
Hmm.
And so they say paying for sexual services can provide a valuable space to explore sensual and sensory needs and interests to gain sexual experience in a non-judgmental environment. Wow, I'm
Ooh.
stuttering today. Sorry. And I thought, wasn't that exactly what it is for everybody, right? Like the irony of things that got kind of chopped up into little categories of humans is that so many elements of it are like exactly the same for everybody. So I'm
You're
like,
right.
that sounds like all of us, right? Um, and so in the UK, they have one called the TLC Trust Organization that can help you find sex workers and other sexual service providers through many different avenues. But if you're looking for someone specifically who works with neurodiversity, you should give TLC Trust a try. They created a platform that connects these sexual providers with interested customers. And I thought,
Hmm.
how cool is that? I mean, that's
Very
like a
cool.
dating app. They need an
Hmm.
app for that. Like, that's amazing. And that should be something like, why isn't that everywhere? That should
I
be
agree.
globalized. Like, why? I mean, the internet is full of little communities. Why not? I
Mhm.
mean, maybe there are. Maybe there's groups that I don't, know about in like I don't know, a chat group somewhere, a Facebook group or something. But
I think there
in
should be
general,
more of a push for that to have, especially in North America, because countries you mentioned are so much more progressive when it comes to sex. But how handy would that be? Because I think at every spa or every agency, there's likely someone that works really well with disabilities. But if there's some sort of like a training program they go through, an awareness that they can certifiably say, I'm capable of working with, and an agency directly accessible to those people. I mean, that seems almost far-fetched, but I think there's such a need for it because for those that are looking for the sex work, I think it's hit and miss. You're gonna get a
yeah.
lot of bad experiences before you get the right one. And I think especially with autistic people who oftentimes um, lack those like social cues, understanding social cues, it's so important for the receiving end who's dealing with them to understand them fully.
I would so love to set our staff up with a program like that. Like,
Mhm.
how beneficial would that be? And I
Yeah,
feel like as time goes on, as society evolves, there's only going to be more.
yeah.
Like, it's going to be such a handy skill in any career, probably,
Mhm.
because bulk of the population. It's like try to avoid dealing with old people. Well, guess what boomers are doing? They're
Yeah.
aging right now, right? And they're going to be everywhere. So like it or not, it's one of those things. So it's very similar to our red pill series. Like it's
Mhm.
everywhere. So let's learn how to deal with it.
Yeah.
Let's learn the best skills and the best tools. And on that note, it led me to a different article that really highlighted some of the training that would go into a sex worker like that. And in some of these countries, especially Australia, they have also kind of like side programs called a surrogacy program. So it's
Mm.
more like a committed more relationship than a sex worker, where you'd have a surrogate that steps in to be the sexual partner, but on an ongoing regular basis and with the
Mm.
help and the work of a therapist as well.
Okay.
Super interesting, like like crossing of worlds. But in describing some of the skills that they need is a lot about communication and consent details.
Hmm. Yeah.
And so they're taking cues from the BDSM community because there's
Interesting.
barely a sexual community that needs more consent conversation than that. Listen, swingers need to talk, but BDSM needs consistent and constant communication through
Right.
every scene, even if it's your husband of 50 years and you've played for 50 years. You still need that. So the clear contractual consensual nature of paid encounters, which is also very common in BDSM communities, where sexual needs, desires, and boundaries are explicitly discussed, tends to suit autistic communication styles. They can
Mm.
provide a safe environment that is not fraught with the uncertainty and indirect communication that is common in casual sexual encounters in a neuronormative society. I was like, that makes perfect sense, right?
Right.
Because listen, even again, in your quote unquote normal situations, a man on a corner and a hooker on a corner decide on a service and a price. It's a contract. It's a discussion. It
Right.
may be 2 seconds and some cues before you hop in the car. But like the negotiation's been done, we shook hands, we paid for it. Like
Mhm.
you don't often do that in a one night stand at a bar. You hope
Right.
it'll go well. You hope he doesn't kill you, but you hope the sex is good. It's usually not. But still, like it's actually so much more risky in that sense. A
Yeah.
hope and a prayer, and an instinct, and butterflies in my tummy, and that's what we kind of roll with. It makes absolute sense to help and avoid some of those miscommunication moments, and then to help like establish exactly what someone is looking for
Mhm.
is, of course, it would be like the same way you negotiate a BDSM scene. Because
Right.
even BDSM, just because you like spanking, doesn't mean everyone likes even the same intensity. So,
Mhm.
like, there's number scales, there's hand signals, there's IQs, there's so many different things that someone can do depending on their communication skills and ability, which is very prevalent across the spectrum of autism in varying degrees, right? So, some participants said that paid sexual encounters gave them the opportunity to gain the sexual experience and confidence they felt they needed to break the cycle of avoidance and anxiety that turned them off from seeking out common civilian
Ooh,
encounters.
I
And
like
I
that.
thought, yeah, we're learning across the board
Hmm.
here. I'm learning how to deliver this service. You're learning skills that you need to take into the world. Isn't that a nod to the Red Pill series as well that we're doing? Because
Right.
just learn from us.
Hmm.
We know we're hot women and we're available to teach you the things. Like,
Right.
literally, why not learn those skills? And so again, I'll go back to some of these organizations. If you're matchmaking like that, what a gift to the community. What a true service, like
Hmm.
across the board, to set someone up with that kind of communication. I think
Yeah.
it's I think it's beautiful. I was like really touched by some of this research that I was doing. Found some really great heartwarming stories on things that helped people shatter their own carrying of the same stigmas that they'd received, because it's so common to internalize those kind of things.
Right.
And if we're able to help smash some of that, fuck yeah, that's just beautiful. I know that you've had some moments, especially in our intro episode, where you were talking about where parents get involved in some of these
Hmm.
procedures, or caregivers. I shouldn't always say parents, caregivers, whether it's a partner, whether it's a nurse, whether it's a parent,
Hmm.
um, and them wanting to help. What an awesome organization for them to start doing research through. Like, how
I
much
think so
better would you
too, because
feel?
the more I even thought about that, I think watching that episode back is usually there is a
Mm,
very active parent or caregiver. And I think especially when you're dealing with a disabled person from a very young age, I think those sexual needs you really put on the back burner. You don't kind
mhm,
of think about them going down that route, and it needs to be something you think about and speak to them about. Like, is sex education even given to a 12-year-old the same way it would be a normal 12-year-old, right? Probably
right.
not, because you think he's probably not going to
Hmm,
have sex. And this is a variety of disabilities I'm referring to here. But I think
right.
it's really important for the parents and the caregivers to really have active conversations, and if that's not in the comfort zone, to go to someone else. Because
Yeah.
like you've said in so many episodes about kind of the wedges and the pieces of the pie of life, sex is a vital part. And you
Mm,
shouldn't deny, just because someone has a disability, of them experiencing all the pleasures that come from the opposite sex or the same sex. Or, I mean, there's so many
right.
variations, but it is pleasure and it's needed for everyone.
I feel like it's so multi-layered too,
Mhm.
because depending on the type of disability, mental or physical, there can be a lot of touch therapy that happens through intimacy. And sex doesn't always have to be penetrative.
Right.
Listen, there's an assumption that brothels just fuck all day, and I guarantee you it's 90% cuddling and talking and
Right.
10% fucking. But like, if you're talking about just the physical side of it, if you're trying to get somebody comfortable with physical touch, if you're trying to reconnect neurotransmitters and work on, feeling and function or body movement control and all kinds of different elements, why not include touch therapy in that? Why would it only be something like physiotherapy or a therapist's couch? Why would it not be almost more like interactive or more like
Mhm.
practical? Like, when you're a doctor, you're studying for a craft, even personal trainer or something like that, you learn the science first and then you take the
Right.
practical into the gym or into the
Mhm.
ER or whatever. It's almost like, okay, with your therapist you can work on all the science, but then at one point, why not go with an intimacy specialist like Annie
Right.
Temple and figure that out physically, both of you in a room together, rolling
Mhm.
on a bed, like figure it out that way, learn the sensations, learn the pleasures that you can enjoy, even
Mhm.
discover the ones that you can't, but then instead of spending your whole life wondering. And I think you're right. When a parent discludes, or any caregiver discludes that piece of the pie, which again is just terrible because you're taking
Mhm.
away a piece of the human experience, it's almost like you're choosing to ignore it. But unless you ask them,
Mhm.
how do you know if they even have those needs? And how do they answer that question if they've never experienced them? It's kind of like, navigating teenage years all over
Mhm.
again. Because, like, you don't know till you know, but once you know, you're like,
Mhm. But you know what
boys,
you
huh?
said made such complete sense, that there's people that offer like a consistent service. So it's like your constant provider. And
Yeah,
unfortunately, I haven't been blessed to know someone personally very close to me with autism. But from what I understand about the disability or even Asperger's, is consistency is key, repetition, schedule, things like that. So to me, it's not surprising that someone with autism would probably be more successful with a routine sex therapist or sex
right.
provider on every Tuesday at 4 o'clock. Like, I think that is the structure that they probably would crave. And because I don't see them going into random encounters. That doesn't fit within the structure of their brain of what they're comfortable with. So it
Right.
makes sense to me for them to have something more reliable.
Oh, no.
Okay, this is how it's going to work. I'll send you the pictures. You pay me first. Here's my details. Include a receipt. Send a request. Include your dates. You're a goddess. Those arches. Here's $50 for your feet in girths. Like lawn? Yes. Okay. Oh my fucking god, he actually paid! Thanks for your transaction. I've transferred you the links. Thank you, Goddess Louisa. Beautiful toes. Do they stink? Sometimes. Okay, I'm happy with that. Here's $100 for you to crush a waffle. Like with my feet? Yes, Louisa, waffle that you ate. Like I'm hard, no peanut butter. Like on my toes? Yes, video. Really get into it. Don't be afraid to make mess. I highball. I'm like, whatever, this will cost you $500. I go in debt.
The scream at the end. That was perfect. That was sex work in a nutshell. Welcome.
Mhm.
Welcome aboard, madam.
My best friends are balls. My best friends are balls by Jen Genevieve. When I wake up, my best friends are right there next to me. When we go anywhere, we go as a three. I help them feel better when they're feeling blue. Although sometimes I tend to block their view. We can't see. They help me when life gets hard.
Yo!
You
Who
can
wrote
do
this?
it. Our home is cozy and warm. We like a tidy yard. It's a bit of a squeeze when we try to sit on a chair. My best friends can grow some really curly hair. Sometimes we all get kisses, and that's very nice.
They are.
Don't forget the best friends, ladies. Cannot leave them out.
Wow.
We all look smaller when it's as cold as ice. Sometimes my best friends can get sweaty and begin to reek. But we love
Jesus.
playing games like hide and seek. My friends can get itchy and need a good scratch. They can
Yo!
get lice, which you can catch. No one will play with us now.
Oh my God.
They laugh when I
Lord
put
help
my
us.
hat on and watch me struggle. Help!
Can't be for kids know
They
this
help me
now.
feel better when I get scared of the dark. So you can do it. We'll be right outside waiting for you. Despite their bad points, they are my besties. It's true. One to the left, the other to the right, stuck together like glue.
Fix it, Lord.
Oh my God. Oh my God. When he gets lost in the dark in a vagina.
You're craving something a little extra, aren't you? Subscribe to our Patreon and enjoy the ride. It makes so much sense, right? Like anything else, there's rapport, there's comfortability within that relationship. It's confidence boosting to maybe try to experiment, play the field a little bit. I mean, even something like a strip club can be overwhelming. On that note, actually, I have a really cool story I found about a strip club.
Okay.
This one was really awesome. It was an article from Psychology Today. And it was kind of about the crossover between occupational therapists, mental therapy, and then people with developmental disabilities and autism. And I was like, okay, cool. So one of the authors of this article said every few months, co-author David's friend Miguel, another occupational therapist, drives around and picks up several clients, adult men with severe developmental or autistic disabilities. The men's families hand Miguel wads of cash as the men excitedly get into the van. The cash isn't for Miguel. It's for the dancers at the strip club that they're headed to. Miguel doesn't bill for these trips, but provides them pro bono, given caution over ethics and his commitment to supporting his clients' holistic needs. At the club, it's a quiet afternoon, but the dancers are excited to see Miguel and his clients. Super cool. The performers are gentle with the men, welcoming them, hugging them, and rubbing their bodies against the men. The dancers know, as do the men's families, that sexuality is a healthy and important part of life, especially for those with disabilities. People with disabilities are often treated as though they have no sexuality at all. As a result, many people with disabilities turn to sex workers for a judgment-free exploration of their sexual needs. Is that not cool?
Very cool.
Miguel's awesome.
Yeah. Actually, you know what?
Miguel's awesome.
This reminds me of one story. I think I mentioned this in the first disabilities episode. I'm following this TikTok account of this sex worker and her client, and I'm so fascinated by them and their dynamic. So the short version is he has cerebral palsy. He has very little verbal communication and very limited mobility. And I think when you, going back to the parent side of this, I think when you have a child like that, you discount their sexuality. You think they are so limited. And this gentleman, his name's Gavin, he goes skydiving. He has tattoos. He has a consistent sex worker. He experiences, I think you really need to give the tools for them to have all of those experiences, because I think looking at him at face value, you think, no, like he wouldn't be able to do anything. He looks like a rock star in his chair with his sex swing, and his consent, the way he verbalizes and communicates is literally like drawing letters with his head.
That's amazing.
It's wild. But yeah, I mean, you shouldn't limit anyone, I guess is my point to the story.
No, I mean, in so many aspects of life, right? But including sexuality, it's just so human. Of all, listen, not that like all the other things we do, faith is very human. You know, desiring knowledge and intelligence is human. Money, power, wealth, blah blah blah. But there's a reason why there's like rules about coveting other people's wives and stuff, because people covet a lot, and they desire things and they want things, and 90% of even the quest for money and power is all based around sex anyway. So again, why are we eliminating a whole chunk of society? It's like any ism, right? You're excluding people on purpose, you're marginalizing, and on top of that, like any community, there is so much diversity within the autistic community too. There are queer-based, there are fluid, there are trans, there are all kinds of different shapes and forms, and some that haven't even discovered those like inklings yet, because again, that piece of the pie has been removed from them. So everything from, you know, brothels being wheelchair accessible and more welcoming, having staff that are well trained, pulling in the resources and experts if needed to do that kind of training. And yes, not everyone's going to have the government support, unfortunately. Shout out Australia. But you can, within your own community, you can find and create those support structures. That is what a company like Maggie's does here in Toronto. They pool resources together and make it accessible for the community, often free of charge. But to any sex worker listening, if you want to learn, hit Google and check what's local for you, because I
Mhm.
guarantee you, if you don't find it local, you'll find it online. And online, there's tons of resources too. You can learn a lot. You can find the clients. And I think every client would be a new learning experience too, because
Mhm.
even the ongoing ones, you'd make new discoveries every time.
Mhm.
Again, it would be so much like teenage years. Like we were like, ooh, titty.
Yeah.
Like, you know how exciting that was when you were 14? Like titties were the best. And you discover all these little elements and what you like. It's no different than women, the difference in women's sexual taste between 20s and 30s, right?
Mhm.
We do what we think we're supposed to do, and then we find out what we really like to do.
Right.
And like that endless discovery would just be sensational, I think, in those kind of encounters and experiences. So if providers are doing the work to research and to learn, or at least being open-minded enough
Mhm.
about it, how cool. You could listen, no offense to strip clubs, but it's the last place I would think that someone would want that kind of experience because of the sensory overload, because of the number
Right.
of bodies and lights and sounds. And listen, it's
Mhm.
overwhelming for me too. I don't even like Walmart for that reason.
Right.
It's fucking loud in Walmart, right? So like but to have a place in a quiet afternoon, again, like you said, on a regular schedule with a familiar driver who's supportive and educated and able to pick everyone up, like, mwah, it's so perfect. It's so perfect. It reminds me again of that comedy sketch we did where we talked about the guy that
Oh
took
yeah,
his
yeah.
buddy with
Mhm.
cerebral palsy to the brothel. And like, it's so heartwarming. Listen, people don't think sex work can be wholesome, but it can be very much so. And then add in those surrogacy type relationships and stuff too, which you can do with a regular provider. You can have
Mhm.
long-term ongoing like setups and arrangements and regular appointment schedules too. But again, for the caregivers that might be the ones booking those kinds of appointments or doing the research together, there's just so many options out there, especially in
Right.
bigger cities, but rural communities as well. Like
Mhm.
literally, sex work is everywhere. You could have a town of 10 and somebody's a hooker. Somebody sells feet pics and somebody sells weed. It's just a thing, right? You need a farmer, a
Necessities.
doctor, a fireman. Like there's just certain things you need.
Yeah.
And once you have them, you're good to go. So I found a couple more little tidbits that I thought were really cool, um, especially about hiring sex workers. So one of the advantages of hiring a sex worker, says a woman who wanted to remain anonymous, she's an autistic woman, is unlike most romantic partners, are comfortable catering to the entire session to the client's needs without projecting their own needs onto the experience and the expectations. And I thought,
Mhm.
what a pressure reliever that would be.
Mhm.
Not that women are never the purchasers of sex work, but they're definitely a minority. And I feel like with that itself comes a nervousness, right? An
Mhm.
uncertainty, probably a bit more research to find the right like resources or what's available, because there will
Mhm.
always be more female sex workers than there will be men.
Right.
That's just the way the cookie crumbles. Sorry, boys. Um, but add in, if you're autistic, and add in again all those barriers or those stigmas and those potential like hesitations, it makes perfect sense that you'd want to really pay for something that's hyper focused on your needs. We
Right.
don't go to the therapist to listen to their personal stories, right? We go to a
Mhm.
therapist to deal with ours. So in a positively selfish way, I think it's absolutely fantastic, and even cooler to hear from a chick. I was like,
Mhm.
get it,
Very
girls.
cool.
I love that. Get proactive. Um, so there was a little bit more about Australia. So in New South Wales, Australia, sex work has been decriminalized since 1979. Love
Oh.
that. Touching Base is an organization that exists specifically to help persons with disabilities access affirmative sexual and physical intimacy. And Touch Base is a program that is supported by their national health services, so their health insurance, like our OHIP. And I thought, fuck, that's awesome.
Mhm.
Um, and this is a quote from a provider that works with Touching Base, who supports persons with disabilities. As a sex worker, I see women across the whole gamut of human diversity, and each is treated the same way, with a genuine, intimate connection. Seeing a client with a disability is no different. Sex workers provide a safe, non-judgmental space for our clients. The first time I met Stephanie, who had cerebral palsy, she simply said, "Don't treat me any differently."
Mm. I love that.
I thought that was so cool. I was like, I love it. I absolutely love it. And then I have one more little piece here about an escort that works at a brothel in Nevada, and it is from inthesetimes.com. Sky is a professional escort. She's been working at Sherry's Ranch. Follow them on Twitter. I know them. Legal brothel located in Nevada. She's been there for a little over a year. A few months back, a man came in asking for a group session with Sky. And one of her colleagues. He had come around a few times before, and he made a point to keep in touch through Twitter. At this time, however, the session took a dark turn. He confessed that he was planning on himself. And she's like, we see a lot of clients who have mental health issues, and it's even more complex when the mental health issues correlate or cross over with physical disabilities or other mental disabilities like autism, cerebral palsy, etc. Though this experience was markedly more dramatic than her usual run-in with clients in a depressive episode, she and her colleagues were eventually able to talk him down and send him home with a full list of resources specializing in matters of depression. Having depression and mental health expertise within a brothel allows support servicing to be included in typical and standard escort services. She's also used a similar system as usually dedicated to sessions that are BDSM. Explains what BDSM is. Each dynamic refers to a specific form of impact play, and she can do the same in discussion and consent with her clients of other needs. They're able to discuss the how, the when, the what, the intensity, and the duration. She suggests that it might also help men with autistic spectrum disorders, social anxiety disorders, and other isolating conditions. She might be right. Turns out, along with many of these symptoms, they are helped immensely with physical contact. According to the American CDC, signs of this disorder and help through sexual touch and touch therapy show that important sensation experiences can lighten the depression, loneliness, and even secondary immune system responses. Hey,
Cool.
now, we're saving lives.
Very cool.
Mhm.
We're saving lives.
We're
I
saving
love that.
lives. I've always said it's community fucking service. That's what we do. And it is, because all across the board, we will find a way. And I feel that's always kind of been our motto at Muse as well. Now, we built Muse specifically wheelchair friendly and wheelchair accessible right off the hop. But we've had different challenges and new clients coming in with new things every once in a while. And we work it out every single time. I love that our staff are so open. And turn into little sponges once they want to learn something new, and they can pull back on their experiences with past clients too, and kind of resource that information together. But I love that this particular situation left with a pamphlet.
Yeah. And you know what I think an important piece is to this too is, for all the reading I've done, in preparing for these episodes, is that for the client, the person with the disability, it's not just about the sex. It's that during that time, it is one of the only times that he is independent without his care, without his support. And I think that really is an appealing factor for them to gain that independence, because really, when you're bringing your mom along or your caregiver, it's the one portion of the day that, no, I'm just with her. And I think that's a very liberating piece for the disabled person.
Liberating. That must be empowering. Must be a little cheeky, a little fun, a little rebellious feeling. Like, no, teacher's gone. Like, we all relate to that, right? I love it. I love it across the board. Listen, it sounds weird to say as much as we do, but I love sex work, and I love it for these moments, because doing the people's work, saving lives, literally putting people back together, building connections and relationships, fueling economy on top of it, making the government resources work. Like, this is a win-win across the board. And I think it shows why acceptance and inclusion just needs to be more prevalent across the whole planet. Because think of what we could do. you know?
Well,
Think of what the world
there's
could.
still miles to go. I think
Yeah.
society's going in the right direction, even with shows like Love on the Spectrum. Like there is more and more awareness, and I think they are feeling more included, as they should. They are a major part of society, but there's
Yeah.
miles to go. So
I love it. I love Love on the Spectrum. First of all, if anyone has not seen it, go see it. And I think I'll end off with a tweet that I found this morning, actually, from a sex worker. My algorithm knew what we were doing today, clearly, because I was brushing my teeth this morning, rubbing the sleep out of my eyes, and came across this one. So this is from Eve Wild with 2 E's. I have a client who's a straight talking autistic. And I was saying to him, "Oh, I'm sure it doesn't matter what I wear in bed, just as long as I'm there, right?" And without even pausing, he was like, "Wrong," capital letters. "It matters very much. I only like when you wear red." And she's like, "LMAO. Okay then, mister. Easy." And
I
all
love the bluntness.
the replies were all like, "I love autistic clients because they're so direct. You don't have to wonder. You don't have a question. You're like, do you like this?" And they're like, "No."
No,
It's just it's like how children are blunt. Why do we lose that? Why do we tarnish that away? But what a sweet little like just anecdote right there. I thought, oh, that's really cute. Again, the algorithm was listening. It was a
no,
nice little
exactly.
fun treat this morning. Shout out to all the sex workers doing all the good labor and good work out there. It is a job, but man, it can be so much fun and it can build such amazing, amazing, unforgettable moments like these. So I hope everyone enjoyed this one. There's going to be much more in the disability series. Make sure you're tuning in. You will find it on YouTube. You will find it on Patreon. You will find little snippets on our social media. So make sure you follow along, like and subscribe, of course. Share the video, share with your friends. Make sure you're always subscribing, and we'll see you next time on Muse on the Mic.
I
Bye,
got
guys.